G'day, this is Captainoob, and this is a Springfield Armory M14 as part of the Escape from Boston series of modded weapons. Like the other Escape from Boston weapons, this thing has custom sounds, reload animations, and also a lot of customization here. It's a pretty high quality weapon mod, and we'll see that in just a second. But talking about the M14 for just a moment, this thing, it's kind of a funky looking thing, and if you read about this thing's history, it starts to make sense a little bit. This whole rear sight assembly in the magazine and the, even to an extent, the barrel here doesn't look like it goes particularly well with the tactical looking Picatinny railed covered handguard and the stock that looks like it's made out of polymer, and even this pistol grip here. This thing originally had wooden furniture and was first developed and deployed into the US military around 1959 to replace a few of the weapons that were used in World War II. They found out that it made a poor replacement for the Browning automatic rifle, and even some people thought that this thing was inferior to the M1 Garand at the time, even though it used a much better magazine system instead of those weird stripper clips. And I'm guessing you wouldn't get grand finger from reloading this thing, although I'd keep your fingers and thumbs away from that thing whilst reloading. Just a word of advice if you happen to come across one of these things in real life. So obviously this is a modernized version, and like, this is the very definition of it ain't broke, don't fix it, because they've got some mileage out of this thing. Right now, you're looking at more of an EBR, Advanced Battle Rifle variant. That's what it was back in Battlefield. I couldn't tell you exactly what this thing is in its class, but it's definitely a modernized version of it, and I can tell you that much, and not much else. So what we'll do, we'll go into the attachments now, and it's a little bit different than usual. Right now, the chassis is just the standard-looking version that you'd see in Battlefield. Maybe you'd see this on US military soldiers. I probably don't use this thing anymore, but you can change this whole assembly here, including putting a whole rail over this old thing there, just keeping enough space clear for the ejection port, I suppose. But that's completely tan now, so it'll fit in if you're playing on a desert map. This one doesn't quite as good. I'm going to leave this as the standard one for now, but just to show you there's some customization options, and obviously the Picatinny rail placement will dictate whether your attachments are sitting a little bit higher or lower depending on where they are. But the first performance modification we can do is this one. We can make the barrel 22 inches or 558 millimeter. That's less freedom units of measurement there, but slightly more precise, don't you think? Now, next thing we can do is chuck on a magazine. Right now we've got a 20 round magazine. This one's also 20 round. This one has 30 rounds, but actually also 20. So normally this thing is chambered in the 7.62 NATO rounds, but they've just used 308s as an approximation, which is basically close enough. It's fine. I prefer it when mods don't use their own proprietary ammo type, unless it's something like they could get away with, like the ASVAL rounds. You're not going to be firing 38s out of those. But yep, this thing works for what it is. Hopefully we can get the full mag capacity out of that thing, because 30 rounds in a semi-automatic rifle, it can last you a little bit. Right now, we can attach a laser sight to the bottom of this, or a flashlight if we feel like it. I'm going to attach this one, a Steiner. And you can attach stuff to the right rail and on the left rail as well. So if you want to chuck on 4 laser sights of different varieties, you certainly can. And your hip fire accuracy will be supreme because of it. Won't do it on this one. Maybe we'll think about doing it on the subsequent ones later. You can change the material here to be black if you feel like it, and don't worry, you can change the stock as well. That one is just set as tan for the moment, or you could have it just the standard FED, which kind of looks like FDE, sorry, which kind of looks like, I don't know. It reminds me of an old Lego set that I had. It was like a Y-wing, and none of the colors are right, and obviously by design they shouldn't have been, but that looks a little bit better in all black, don't you think? And right now, it's got the sight position. You can have a scope mount on there, which would swap the sights from being there on the handguard looking thing to being right above there, just enough space clear for the ejection port, and that'll make the sights a little bit more ergonomic, I think. So for the comfort of our shooter, we'll go ahead and chuck a little mount on there, and you can have a laser sight beam, dot, or switch it off entirely if you feel like it. So if you want to have the aesthetics of the laser sight there, but not the effect, then you can turn it off. You can pretend you're being super stealthy, because they won't be able to trace the laser back to you. There's a few muzzle brakes in here. There's some ones that'll control your recoil a little bit better than others, but what I'm going for here is a suppressor on the front. This one has teeth on the front too, if you want to put it on a door and a lock or something and blast the lock on the door with 308s before you enter. You can do that. The little muzzle will grip in nice and well. Right now, we've just got the standard pistol grip on this. You can change it to many other things. None of them have particularly accurate insights about how they affect the weapon stats, but these ones at the bottom have a little bit of extra gun nut requirements, so I'm gonna assume that they're better, but possibly that's just all for aesthetics. Aesthetics that you'll never ever see, except for maybe when you're reloading. Just a tiny little bit of that red on that little grip there, and you can put something on the top. Yep, we've already gone through all of that. The stock you can change, and just a little bit like the grips on this, some of them have higher ranks of, I guess, gun nut than others, and that would dictate the effectiveness of the stock. This one here, I believe this is a, I don't know, I'm hoping one of these would be a marksman stock so I can have a steadier scope when aiming down sights, but I'm not really sure what's going on. I actually had that one on a 22 submachine gun yesterday, so we're going to use that stock again because it served me well thus far. You can throw a foregrip on this of many types, including this giant oversized one. Looks very comfortable indeed. Or an angled foregrip, which we'd always have in Battlefield 4 on DMRs, because reducing your first shot recoil is going to apply to every shot for DMRs back in that game. So going by a Battlefield 4 logic, we have to do it, right? There's also some stubbier grips if you want, including ones that'll have gun nut rank 3 as their requirements. Look out for those ones. They're asking a lot of perks for your price there. Right now, we've got no sights, but we can apply some right now. We won't be able to use these iron sights with the scope mount in the way, and I'm guessing you just literally aim down nothing, I suppose. You'd aim down the Picatinny rails, which wouldn't be super accurate, I guess, but what we can do here is throw a scope on, and you can have non-see-through scope variants as well, which I'm going to put on because there's a lot of recoil inertia when firing this thing. I've tested out just preliminary testing, and I feel like the extra stability from a non-see-through scope would be good. That's a little bit of personal preference. Honestly, I'm not really keen on the see-through scopes mod. I prefer it to be how it is, the Todd TV viewing through there, instead of having the sort of zoom in on the screen. But that's just a personal preference. And we can swap the receiver to tier 6, which we're going to do. That gives us 542 damage, and this is not a damage plus slider, so it feels less like cheating. I also need 2 ranks in sniper to get this, which you want all the time anyway, so that's nice, and I believe that is it for the M14. So that's this one. We're going to cover one in laser sights and use some with and without suppressors as well, so we'll see you when we get to shooting stuff. You can craft this weapon on a chemistry workbench on Escape from Boston M14, and it'll be listed here as a Springfield Armory M14 for some reason. There you go, there's one. Righto, so we're outside of the Immersive Gunners Plaza, just a little bit past 7, and here is the M14 in first person. Looks like we are putting a lot of effort into going side to side there. That's kind of interesting. That's what it looks like in first person. The non-see-through scopes look like just standard regular old vanilla scopes, and a quick look in third person. It's a great looking weapon. They've sized it well. No clipping, don't worry about that. No clipping to speak of at all. And I've got a couple other ones. This is a close range one with a suppressor. This is a long range one without a suppressor, and this is a close range one without a suppressor, but also with a quadruple laser sight matrix, which means I get supreme hipfire accuracy, and this tiny little aim point, I probably won't use it all that much because I've got all that accuracy whilst hip firing anyway. Joy. Anyways, so instead of getting started today using a suppressed one, we're going to use a longer range one with a longer range scope. It's got this whole, I think this is a scope overlay in vanilla, but it's just unused. But this is an unsuppressed. Let's use that and whiff our first couple of shots here. That's okay, just got to dial in the scope a little bit. Seem to be hitting a little bit better now. There's a little bit of spread, I should mention, because you're not going to hit exactly everything, but looks like we seem to be settled in a little bit right now. Maybe the early game nerves here, the early fight nerves got to us a little bit, but we've settled in after getting a few shots up. A little bit of extra confidence for us, I suppose. Anyways, we could be sneaking right now, but we're not. And one of the reasons I did choose the non-see-through scopes is because I kind of want to utilize... And hang on, let me lean here. Look at that. Oh, it's so tactical. I kind of want to utilize the ability to knock things down, as you saw just there. There we go. That's what you want. For some reason, that first shot just ended up a little bit too high. I'm a little bit worried about Mr. MG42 there, but I'm confident that we can use this tree as, like, impenetrable bulletproof cover here, because we're not getting hit all that much despite being in the firing line of many gunners here. And I think we should probably switch over now, yeah? Enter one with a suppressor and a lesser scope. I should mention that you can fire this incredibly fast. That was a pretty nasty flank. I didn't even see that guy sneak up on me. He decided to do nothing about it. And, whoops, let me just get into cover properly here, then start firing. Ah, yes, this brings you back to the old Killzone days, to be honest. They had a really neat cover system in Killzone 2 and would go on to be Killzone 3, where you'd sort of lean into it, and it works well with the controller. I don't know if it would work as well without a controller. I know that leaning sucks if you want to move left and right, because, well, I run out of fingers, and if I want to press spacebar, then, yeah. Okay, so that was the first gunner trash talk that I'm going to actually abide by, because she did a lot of damage to me just then. Let's use this thing a little bit in VATS, why don't we? Couple of chain headshots here in VATS seem to do us pretty well, and although there's a lot of visual recoil the weapon will produce, it's slightly less when you utilize a scope with lesser magnification, of course. But if you want to say fuck all that noise to visual recoil and just spam on the trigger and shoot that guy's gun as it drops from his cold dead hands, or I guess it was still warm and dead there in that case, because he only just recently died. Well, you can do that. And looks like we've got some, what is it, Rust Devils? I think that's tactical over there. Let's just knock him out a little bit. And a Mantis. I usually don't see that much in a way. Okay, so apparently you've got some sort of incendiary around it. I've got no idea what that is, but now I'm sort of knee-deep in gunners and with zero cover. So let's try to change that a little bit. If we can hop up here and sit behind one of these pillars, oh, perfect. That's what we wanted to see. Let him have it. We'll fire this thing as fast as we can, and if we hit stuff, great. If we don't, whatever, you know? We've got plenty more bullets to go around. Why not? We may as well take the gamble. If we do hit something, it's great DPS. If we don't, then we'll just readjust for next time. Enter hipfire mode. And that's actually nerd rage, so let's see if we can't utilize that a little bit. Can't actually see that guy. Maybe I should go over to a scoped version. There we go. Probably squandered most of this slow motion, to be honest, but what we can do is, well, actually the recoil control would have been pretty sublime had I actually used a scoped version throughout that little combat section there. Probably a little bit of a misplay by my part, but we've got a free heal out of this, so it's time to charge him. Feel the power of the EBR, the battle rifle. And for 308s, this is hitting pretty hard. It's definitely surfing on the end game levels of power here, but it doesn't feel like too much. Almost got flashbangs. That would be unpleasant to go through. And you've got a bash animation too. I don't know if there's a knife there, but it's a mighty right hook if there's no knife there, because sometimes you can do a whole lot of damage with it. Hang on, I'm not supposed to use the aim point with this, but I could. So we've got a couple of stragglers around, so it looks like we'll be on just sort of mop-up duty as we go along here. I'm going to switch back over to the one with an EO stack, just for a little bit more precision. Nice God Rays, bro. Too bad it didn't do him much good in the end, did it? If he had stood in those God Rays, he would have probably survived a little bit longer, I think. Just because I would have had the sun glare to contend with. Don't worry about the sprinting on nothing. That's just a bug that happens in Fallout sometimes. You'll find that there's a few going around. Anyways, it looks like the door breach is the last thing we're going to do here. And whoops. Yes, I've had to map the activate button onto F, which means I'm going to slightly lean towards the left, or so the right, every time I try to activate something just out of normal sort of things. Also, reload animation in third person. Get around it. Also, pleased to announce that it's actually a 30-round magazine. I must have been using a lesser magazine when messing around with this earlier and thought that I was using the 30. But it's not. It's fine. No need to worry about that. It's great. And you know what else is great? This weapon. Let's go shoot some other things with it. Some monsters will knock them down and make sure they won't have the chance to fight back. It'll kill them like real quick, under a minute like. Alright, Swan's standing over there. And I'm actually going to utilize some tactical leaning in cover there. I'm hoping that since this is in broad daylight, if I can create a little bit of visual cover between myself and the Swan, I might be able to do this without him spotting me right away. I don't think it would matter anyway because, well, hitboxes for one. The other thing is that we've knocked him down, he's got no idea where we are. And I think there's going to be little critters going after him now, so we'll try to knock those away. That's one, that's two. That'll be three there. We got a free knockdown there on the Swan, thanks to the boom bugs going off, which they're getting on my nerves now. I wonder if I can get into that ESP and just remove that spawn so I can fight Swan without the bloody boom bugs coming in and messing up the thing. But yep, that's the power of the version that has the suppressor and the knockdown ability and the rate of fire that's like this. It's kind of like what you'd find out of a combat rifle chambered in 308, but even stronger. And I think that's great. Oh, it's a little grub down there. That's gross. Take that out from range. I don't want to look at that thing that closely. Ooh, I think it just ate the boom bug. Ugh. You know what? I draw the line at leeches. Giant spiders and rad scorpions and other arachnids, fine. Leeches, I can't deal with. Every person has their limits. Remember Farkas from Skyrim, he had his limits, and there's also piggies down there. Lots of piggies fighting other things. Also, that's a wild boar behemoth, but I guess I don't get much bigger than that. He's definitely a big boy. And he is out of there. Out of render distance, I don't care. I can still see her. And one last monster from a different game franchise. He goes down. Okay, a little bit of a diversion there to snipe stuff that really didn't need to be sniped at, but that's okay. Also, classic holstered weapons, all of them work pretty well. If anything, I'd like them to be just slightly higher because the barrel is getting a little bit close to the ground if you've got the long variant and a suppressor on it, but I think it works out pretty well indeed. So let's kill one more monster, I suppose. Alright, so the moon is out, the sun is down, but I ain't going to use a suppressor. I'm going to go for just the standard go for it, and we'll try to get some sniping on those guys. There's a big sentry butt up there, so we've got to take him out if we want to get those glorious sneak criticals. Now, we might be broadcasting our position to all of those death claws if we do happen to fire this thing. As you would imagine, 308's a pretty loud round. They make a big noise when they go off, so knowing that. Actually, this place is crawling with deathclaws. Maybe I just take out the little babby deathclaws with the suppressed ones, because they'll cause all sorts of nonsense if I let them. I got one sneak critical and just finish him off with two glancing blows. That's the big Night Stalker one. That's a good song by Megadeth, I'll tell you that much. Although, what I should probably do now is such a big target. May as well just take him out this way, right? There we go. To get this completely optimized and to kill it in the fastest way I could possibly kill him, I could probably... I wonder what happens if he picks you up when you're leaning. Well, I'm still leaning. Yeah, it canters the camera off to the bit. I guess... I mean, they probably could have... I went for the VATS button, but obviously it's mapped to a different thing than usual. Also, I got stuck aiming down sights. The aiming down sights bug before it was popular from Fallout 76 even. There we go. We'll knock him down. And this thing's damage is pretty good. I mean, we'd still be shooting him for days if he was on the ground like that. He's not getting up anytime soon, so... I think you understand the capabilities of this. Even in its unsuppressed form, it goes really well. And also, did I knock you down? Oh, I will in a second. Come on. There we go. There's that sexy knockdown. Now, if I could slip back into caution. There we go. we might be able to get some good old sneak criticals, and it's pretty much lights out, game over for old mate Super Deathclaw. So we're going to hip fire him from here, just to show him the utter lack of respect that we've got. Okay, maybe I caught a little bit too early there. Let's, well, that was a total whiffer from Mr. Deathclaw. Let's throw some criticals in there until we get... Was that round... Wait, was that magazine only loaded with 1 round, was it? That was interesting. One of the old magazines that you thought you'd emptied. Never mind, you're out. Reload now. Man, these crits are coming in pretty clutch at the moment. It's interesting to see how much little effort went into having, like, different receivers on this. Maybe they tried something different. I suppose that's what they did. But I'd love to have a receiver that would increase crit damage, even though I'd go for the higher damage one each time. And, ooh, come on, there we go. We got a bit lucky with that last hit. I don't think he actually did any damage. That might have been from the Unstoppables magazine, but I feel like it would have done a little bit more damage than it should there. But we made it through, and I think you get the idea. The M14, the Mark 14 EBR, I suppose it could be called as well. Again, I'm not really sure on the specific variants of this weapon at all, but I think it's a solid weapon. If you've got a rifleman build and you're not really keen on super long-range, slow-firing snipers, you want something with a little bit more DPS, I would highly recommend this mod. Anything that you'd find out of Escape from Boston it's basically a must-have. They know what they're doing over there, and if you add some cool tactical leaning mods like this, oh man, you feel like you're gonna be playing a tactical shooter. Isn't that the end goal for all Fallout modders? Just to make Fallout armor, but with like playing as Barbie dolls and also creepy giant bugs that freeze in air. And Mirelurks, who could forget the Mirelurks? Anyways, links in the description if you want. Thank you very much for watching, guys.